Good morning everybody, my name is George Whale. I'm from Queen Mary University of London and I'm here to talk about a project called EMC2 which stands for Excellence in Media, Computing and Communication. So what is EMC2? EMC2 is a support action to establish a Centre of Excellence in Media, Computing and Communication. EMC2 provides a framework to bridge the gap between industrial players and academic research groups. And EMC2 facilitates the persistence and lasting impact of 3D Life, Reverie and other MC2 projects. I'll talk about 3D Life and Reverie in a minute, which are very connected to our project. We're actually a consortium of universities, not just London University, but also working closely with Neuralab, who are based in Geneva, in Switzerland, University of Geneva, Fraunhofer Heinrich Hertz Institute, which is here, Dublin City University, and we're very happy to have also Korea University as one of our consortium partners. So it's not entirely a European consortium, we have Korea involved as well, which is great. Telecom Paris Tech, and Informatics and Telematics Institute based in Thessaloniki, Greece. So there are 7 consortium partners altogether. And between them they represent a very broad spread of expertise in media and communications, and especially in the 3D area. All of these institutions are doing groundbreaking research in different areas of 3D. Now I won't bore you too much with the organisation, but basically the important part of the organisation is the EMC2 steering board. That's like the governing body of the organisation. And below that you have the MC2 office, which is basically me. Now feeding into the steering board you have the European Commission, because we're actually funded by the European Union at the moment. And we have also an external advisory board, which consists of people from academia and industry who have some input into the management of the project. We have 3D Life and Reverie projects also feeding into the steering board. And down at the bottom here we have the network members, the EMC2 network members. And at the moment these network members are actually drawn from people that we know, mainly from industry. Some of them are connected with 3D Life and Reverie. And so we're starting from a core network of people who have connections with the 3D media industry. And starting from that core we hope to extend the project outwards and actually build a much larger network involving researchers and industry within the 3D area. And so the objectives of our project are quite simple. There are three primary objectives to the project. The first objective is academia industry matchmaking and technology transfer to small and medium enterprises, The second objective is the provision of educational services for entrepreneurship. And the third objective of the EMC2 project is the shaping of national and European research agendas. So these are the 3 areas in which our project is working. Now the thing that makes our project different from most other European Union funded projects is this issue of sustainability. Most people here, most of the researchers here who've worked for European Union projects, you know that they tend to last for 3 years or 5 years. You put a lot of effort into building up the infrastructure, building up the team. People get used to working with each other, they build up a huge amount of expertise. And then after 3 or 5 years, suddenly it's all gone and everybody dissipates. And so all that expertise and all that knowledge and infrastructure is lost. And, you know, essentially that's quite wasteful. And so the European Commission was very concerned to look at how some of these very good research projects could actually be sustained over the long term. So you could maintain the research environments, you could keep researchers together, and you could actually benefit from longer term activity. And so our project aims to be sustainable in the long term. And the idea is that we start off with funding from the European Union. Currently my salary is paid by the European Union. And during the first phase of the project we're going to be participating in EU funded projects, and that's going to be a major source of income. But as time goes by, we aim to become more self-sufficient and less dependent on public funding. And an important part of this is actually making sure that our research results are sustainable. Now, if you're developing software, one of the big problems with software is that after a couple of years you find you can't use it anymore because the platforms that it was constructed on don't exist. And so this issue of making software sustainable and usable in 5 or 10 years' time and maintaining it so that it can be used on different platforms, this is a very important aspect of sustainability and one of the things that we're looking at in terms of making our project sustainable. And of course the other big issue is funding. How do we generate income to pay people's salaries and to pay for the infrastructure and so on? And there are basically three sources of income which we're looking at the moment. The first is the provision of educational services. Secondly, network membership fees. Now, because we're gathering together a great deal of expertise from many different universities and research institutions, the idea is that expertise can actually be made available to industry partners. Now, potentially that expertise and that knowledge is very valuable. For a company getting early access to research results, for example, that can give them a real edge, a real competitive edge over their market competitors. And so the service is potentially very valuable to companies, and that's why we're looking at charging them membership fees in terms of an annual subscription in order to become part of our network. And the other possible source of income is through sponsorship and donors. Now the focal area, of course, is it's mainly 3D, specifically 3D media processing for social networking, immersive environments, augmented reality, and 3D broadcasting. Ralph was talking about the huge growth, earlier on he was talking about the huge growth in 3D TV activity, 3D entertainment. Obviously that's a very big area for us to be looking at in terms of research and development. And this work, it involves a lot of different expertise from areas such as computer vision, computer graphics, media networking, 3D signal processing, human factors, autonomous virtual agents, and so on. So a great spread of expertise required, and we're in the fortunate position that having this consortium, we're able to provide all of that expertise in terms of research. I mentioned earlier two existing projects, 3D Life and Reverie. The 3D Life project, I believe it's been going for about 3 years now, and that again was a consortium of different universities. And the tagline of the project was bringing the 3D internet to life. And the purpose of the project was to integrate leading European research groups to explore new paradigms of 3D media communication and interaction over the internet. So essentially it's about 3D, it's about the internet, and it's about communication. And the other project, Reverie, which is a new project, only just started recently, is looking at enabling efficient processing and distribution of 3D, immersive and interactive media over the internet. So again, it's about 3D, it's about the internet, and it's about communication. So it has a great deal in common. These two projects have a great deal in common, also with the MCsquare. These are precisely the areas that we're looking at. And so we're very fortunate to be able to start, not from scratch, we're starting with this background of 3D Life and 3D Reverie. Those two projects are very closely connected with the MC2. And what that means is that we're not starting from scratch, we're starting from a position of considerable knowledge and considerable achievement. And that gives us a lot of kudos in terms of attracting new companies into the network. I mentioned previously the 3 objectives of the MC2. I'll look at those, let's look at those a little more closely now. Objective 1, academia industry matchmaking and technology transfer to small and medium enterprises. Now, matchmaking is a very good word here because I think of this process as very much like a kind of dating service. You know that if you take 2 people with similar age and similar attractiveness and put them in a room together, if you pick those people at random, the chances of them hitting it off are almost 0. But if you look at those people's backgrounds, their interests, their life goals and those kinds of things, you stand a much better chance of making something happen. And just as with a dating agency, if you're trying to match academia and industry together, it's very helpful to have an understanding of what their interests are, what their goals are, what their philosophies are. And through having that deeper understanding of what they're doing, you stand a much better chance of creating productive partnerships. And so a big part of my job is actually talking to companies, talking to researchers, understanding what they're doing, and looking at possible connections between them. And so when we talk about building a network, the network doesn't actually exist until you start making those connections between the different players. It's the connections between them that actually make the network. And that's essentially, that's what the MC2's main task is. Now moving on to the third point here, provide rapid feedback between industry and academia. This is absolutely crucial because it's really important that industry and academic research are talking to each other. Now, from industry's point of view, it's a tremendous advantage if they get advance warning of research that's being done, if they get very quick and timely information about research results. This can give them a great competitive advantage. So feedback from academia to industry can help industry. And similarly, feedback from industry to academia can help academic research because it helps to make academic research more relevant to what's going on in industry. Very often academics are accused of being out of touch with the real world, but if you've got industry partners involved and they're telling academics what the market opportunities are, what things are coming up, how they see the future, then they can help guide the academic research in useful and productive directions. So that this business of rapid feedback between industry and academia is absolutely crucial. And on a practical level, in terms of actually making projects work, you're looking at helping these partners, once you've made these partnerships, helping them to apply for funding, helping them with the coordination of projects and that kind of thing. This is the kind of practical help that we'll be giving. And also helping, looking at ways of integrating research personnel and resources through industry placements and all the different kinds of schemes that enable that to happen. Briefly, the second objective, provision of educational services for entrepreneurship. Viral Pecker was talking earlier about the lack of entrepreneurial training in universities. It's a big problem. We have all these very clever people, brilliant researchers, they're extremely good at what they do, but at the end of their research contracts, a lot of them find themselves at a loose end. They don't know what to do. And so providing these people with entrepreneurial skills, we believe, can actually enable them to start their own businesses and find ways, natural ways of moving on from their research activity by starting their own companies. And so all of these different training options are centred around the idea of entrepreneurship in the MC2 field. And the third and final objective of the MC2 is the shaping of national and European research agendas. And the purpose really of this workshop was to actually begin this dialogue about what the future research agendas will be in 3D, getting industry people and researchers together to talk about the future, what the possible futures are, and begin to construct some kind of roadmap for the future, to shape the future research agenda. That's what these kinds of meetings are about. Another way of shaping research agendas is to identify best practices, to look at previous projects like 3D Life, see where they've been successful in knowledge transfer, try to understand why they've been successful and disseminate that knowledge more widely so that other people can benefit from their success. And the fourth element of shaping research agendas is this issuing of research challenges. Now, one thing that 3D Life project did very well was to issue these challenges to the international research community. They'd come up with a good idea for some technically difficult thing. The last one they did was a challenge to create a virtual dance studio where people from different locations could actually all get together in this virtual space and learn from a dance teacher, and that was very successful. Got a lot of people involved in that. And so research challenges is something we want to continue from 3D Life. Finally, I just want to talk briefly about the website. Now, I'm a great believer in face-to-face contact. I think meeting you all here today on an individual basis and talking to you face-to-face, there's no possible substitute for that, but of course it's very difficult when we all live in different parts of Europe or different parts of the world, it's really difficult to get people together. And so inevitably we're going to be heavily dependent on our website, which is currently under development. And just to give you an idea of the flavour of the kinds of things that our website is going to include, it's going to include, crucially, a database of 3D industry and research, so that people will be able to see at a glance all the different kinds of activities that are going on in the area of 3D. And I was really surprised when I began researching this, just how many small and medium companies there are working in 3D. There are hundreds and hundreds all over Europe, all doing really interesting specialised things. So that database will have information about all those different activities, as well as different research groups. It's also going to contain this feedback I spoke about earlier from industry and from research, software resources, data resources, teaching materials, the grand challenges, fellowships, funding opportunities, publications. It's going to be very comprehensive, this website. It's going to have all the material that people will need if they're interested in possibly becoming part of our network or working with other companies or with academic researchers. We hope to provide all that kind of information that you need if you want to do that. So that's the end of my presentation, and if I was asked to sum up the MCsquared in one sentence, I would say that it's about constructing a network which enables connections between people that otherwise wouldn't have been possible, and also enabling activities which without that network also wouldn't have been possible. So essentially I see our role in the MCsquared as about making these connections and building this larger network. And I do hope that some of you will be interested in looking at the possibility at least of joining us, because I think there are many exciting possibilities here. And I hope after today to be speaking to all of you individually, telling you more about the MCsquared, and hopefully getting you interested in what we're doing, because I think it's a very worthwhile project. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Just a quick question. When approximately do you imagine this website to go live?
Within weeks. I only started, well, the project only started really last month, and we're in discussion now about what the structure of the website will be. I'm talking to designers about how it's going to look. This is my top priority now, to get the website up and running, because without it we can't really have the network. So yeah, soon.
First of all, I can only reaffirm that this is a great idea, and thanks for submitting it. And we are looking very positive and very happy, and definitely we are looking to collaborate and see to all that is in my group and research from that is definitely involved in both activities. That's why we see that. We are ready to collaborate with this initiative, and definitely collaborate with that. I'm particularly happy about the first objective, and about the website as well. Did you, because somehow we face the same challenges with about the if you remember one of our initiatives, the bulletin board. You talked about how will you promote this website, because obviously the one thing is about the content, but the other one is how to make it known about a lot of websites out there. So you talk about the communication strategy, about the promoting, how to know.
Well, this business of marketing the website, I have to admit, it's not my strong point, but we do have expertise within our university, and I fully intend to consult them about the best ways of marketing it. But I do believe a lot of the work that I'm going to be doing in building the network and getting people interested is going to be through personal contact, phoning people, talking to them, going out to companies, visiting them, doing presentations. A lot of work involved in physically meeting people, and I think that's essential. The website can only do so much. You can set up these online forums and people never use them. If you have a lot of personal contact, then there's more incentive for people to actually do them. But what you were saying earlier about similar projects and similar initiatives that are going on in Europe, I'll be very interested in talking to you at a later date about how we can cooperate and work together on those things. So.
Exactly. Would you be interested in, let's say, participating in one of our initiatives about the European camp of web entrepreneurs?
Yeah, this is something I'd very much like to do. One of the things I'm currently doing is talking, there's an area in London called Silicon Roundabout, and that's really where a lot of the high-tech companies are starting up. There's a lot of very clever entrepreneurs there. I've just begun talking to those people. Firstly, to try and find mentors who can actually provide mentorship for people who are thinking of starting their own businesses. And secondly, to ask them what kinds of training would have been useful to you when you were becoming an entrepreneur. What kind of training would you have wanted? And by talking to successful entrepreneurs, I clearly identify what kinds of training they need and incorporate that into our programs. There's no substitute for talking to people who've actually done it, I think, and that's what we're doing.
Forward.
Thank you very much.